Introduction. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today, we are kicking off a massive journey through the chronological events surrounding the X-Men and the various mutants scattered across the Marvel Universe. Since this is the beginning of the series, we have a blank slate, and we're looking at some incredibly pivotal moments that set the stage for decades of mutant history. We'll be covering early appearances of legendary figures like Wolverine, Sabretooth and Magneto, while also exploring tragic origin stories that shape the core of the X-Men teams. Let's jump right into the action. Part 1: Incredible Hulk number 161, 1973. Hank McCoy, famously known as the Beast, is one of the founding members of the X-Men. Originally appearing as a highly athletic and brilliant young man with unusually large hands and feet, Hank's mutation granted him superhuman strength, agility, and a genius-level intellect. Despite his somewhat brutish appearance, he is incredibly articulate, often quoting classic literature and demonstrating expertise in biochemistry and genetics. Later in his career, an experiment goes wrong, causing him to mutate further into a furry, blue-haired creature with fangs and claws. Even with his terrifying exterior, Hank remains the moral compass and the scientific backbone of whatever team he joins. He battles the constant prejudice of society while striving to bridge the gap between humans and mutants through science and diplomacy. Calvin Rankin, the Mimic, is a unique figure in mutant history. He wasn't born with his powers. Instead, an accidental chemical explosion in his father's laboratory permanently altered his cellular structure. Calvin gained the extraordinary ability to perfectly copy the superhuman powers, skills, and even physical traits of anyone he stands near. If he's close to the X-Men, he gets Cyclops' optic blasts, Beast's agility, and Angel's wings all at once. The catch is that these copied abilities usually fade once he moves out of range. Calvin's life is a constant struggle with arrogance, resentment, and a desperate desire to belong. He actually joined the X-Men for a brief period, becoming the first non-founding member to leave the team, but his overwhelming ego and unstable powers constantly push him away from the people trying to help him. Hank McCoy and his companion Vera Cantor trek deep into the Canadian wilderness, racing against the clock. They're searching for Calvin Rankin, the Mimic, who is hiding out in a remote cabin. Calvin is suffering from a lethal condition. His power absorption abilities are wildly out of control, constantly pulling the life force from everyone around him. If left unchecked, this expanding radius of energy drain could eventually kill millions of people. Hank knows the stakes are incredibly high, but he manages to sedate Calvin just in time and begins desperately working on a cure using the limited equipment they brought along. Coincidentally, the Incredible Hulk is wandering through the exact same stretch of the Quebec forest. The Green Goliath starts feeling nauseous and weak, completely unaware that he's being affected by Calvin's passive energy drain. Driven by pure anger and the instinct to destroy whatever is causing his pain, the Hulk tracks the sensation directly to the cabin. He bursts into the clearing, ready to smash the entire building to splinters. Inside, Hank realizes they're completely outmatched. But he forms a dangerous plan. He figures the Hulk's massive, gamma-radiated physiology might be exactly what they need to overload and stabilize Calvin's mutating cells. Calvin wakes up right as the Hulk attacks and immediately absorbs the monster's raw, gamma-powered strength. The two titans clash in a brutal, earth-shaking brawl. They trade massive blows, leveling trees and shattering the surrounding landscape. The fight pushes Calvin to his absolute limits. Just as Hank predicted, the sheer volume of gamma radiation Calvin pulls from the Hulk completely burns out his powers. Calvin loses his mimicking abilities permanently, but the feedback loop cures him. The Hulk, realizing the pain is gone, loses interest and leaps away into the sky, leaving Hank and Vera to tend to the newly powerless Calvin. Part 2: X-Men Deadly Genesis number 2, 2006. Armando Munoz, codenamed Darwin, possesses one of the most fascinating and unpredictable mutations ever recorded: reactive evolution. His body automatically and instantly adapts to survive any situation or environment. If he falls into deep water, he grows gills. If he's trapped in a burning building, his skin becomes fireproof. If he falls from a great height, his bones turn spongy to absorb the impact. Born to a mother who rejected him because of his unusual, bald appearance and strangely long limbs, Armando grew up feeling utterly isolated. He suffered severe bullying at school until his powers kicked in, giving him rock-hard skin to fight off his attackers. Scientists eventually discovered his gifts, publishing papers about the boy who constantly evolves. Despite his incredible survival skills, Armando is deeply sensitive, haunted by his mother's cruelty, and searching for a place where he finally belongs. Armando Munoz grew up knowing he was different. His strangely elongated limbs and complete lack of hair made him a target from day one. His father abandoned the family when he was just 4 years old, leaving him with a mother who openly resented his existence. She blamed him for ruining her life. Despite her cruelty, Armando desperately sought her approval, pushing himself to become incredibly smart just to see her smile. The real turning point happens when he is a teenager at an advanced academy. After years of relentless bullying, a group of kids attacks him. Suddenly, his skin hardens into a rock-like substance, allowing him to effortlessly knock out his attackers. This incident catches the attention of scientists who run extensive tests on him. They discover his body automatically adapts to any threat. They lock him in a pitch-black room, and his eyes adjust to see perfectly. They pump the room full of gas, and his lungs instantly alter their structure to breathe it. The scientists name him Darwin, the evolving boy. Later, Armando goes home to visit his mother, only to find her apartment engulfed in flames. He walks straight into the inferno without a second thought. The smoke doesn't choke him, and the blazing heat has absolutely no effect on his slick, fireproof skin. The firefighters are stunned as he walks out completely unharmed. Even after surviving the fire, his mother still rejects him, calling him a freak. Heartbroken, Armando climbs to the roof of the academy and jumps, wanting to end it all. But his powers refuse to let him die. His bones turn soft and spongy, and he simply bounces off the pavement. As he sits in a psychiatric office recovering from the attempt, a woman named Moira McTaggart arrives. She tells him she works with kids just like him, offering him a fresh start. Part 3 Avengers number 110, 1973. Magneto is the undisputed master of magnetism and one of the most powerful and complex figures in the mutant world. Born Max Eisenhardt, he survived the horrors of the Holocaust, an experience that forged his deeply cynical view of humanity. He believes that baseline humans will always fear and exterminate anyone different, and he is determined to ensure mutants do not suffer the same fate as his family. Magneto controls all forms of magnetism, allowing him to manipulate metal, generate impenetrable force fields, and achieve flight. While he frequently clashes with the X-Men, his motivations are rarely purely evil. He genuinely wants to protect his people, even if his methods involve global conquest and extreme violence. His striking helmet isn't just for show. It shields his mind from psychic attacks, particularly from his old friend turned rival, Professor Charles Xavier. Professor Charles Xavier is the visionary founder of the X-Men and arguably the most powerful telepath on the planet. He possesses the ability to read minds, project his thoughts across vast distances, and control the actions of others. Confined to a wheelchair for much of his life, Xavier uses his immense wealth and intellect to run a school for gifted youngsters in upstate New York. His ultimate dream is peaceful coexistence between humans and mutants. He trains young mutants to control their abilities and uses them as a strike force to protect a world that hates and fears them. Xavier serves as a father figure to his students, offering them guidance, sanctuary, and a sense of purpose. His unwavering optimism stands in stark contrast to Magneto's militant philosophy, making them lifelong, ideological enemies locked in a battle for the soul of mutant kind. The Avengers receive a strange, silent transmission that shows a view of the X-Men's estate, leading them to investigate. The mansion is in ruins. Iron Man and Captain America comb through the wreckage, shocked by the sheer scale of the devastation. They find the mutant heroes locked in stasis, their heartbeats slowed to barely detectable levels. It's a terrifying sight for the veteran heroes. Suddenly, a figure drops from the ceiling. It looks like the Angel, but it's actually Magneto in disguise. Magneto gloats about his recent victory over his oldest enemies. He explains the horrific nature of his new ability. By controlling the iron in their bloodstream, he can force their bodies to obey his commands while their minds remain trapped and fully aware. He intends to use this method to build a massive army of super-powered slaves. Magneto immediately tests this out on the Avengers. He seizes control of Iron Man's armor, turning him against his allies. Thor tries to strike back, but Magneto manipulates the Thunder God's movements. To cover his escape, Magneto brings the mansion's stone structure crashing down around them. He manages to grab the Scarlet Witch, noting that her reality-altering hex powers will be incredibly useful for his coming war. The Vision phases through the falling rocks and tries to stop him, but Magneto slips away. The remaining Avengers manage to survive the cave-in and regroup. They realize they are dealing with a threat unlike anything they've faced before, and they immediately begin tracking the Master of Magnetism to save both the X-Men and the Scarlet Witch. Part 4 Avengers number 111, 1973. Daredevil and the Black Widow are hanging out in San Francisco when they hear about the Avengers' disastrous encounter with Magneto. Black Panther arrives to recruit them, explaining that the rest of the team needs all the help they can get. Meanwhile, Magneto has relocated to a hidden cavern base with his captive army. He's controlling the X-Men, the Scarlet Witch and a local mutant known as the Piper. The Piper's music has the bizarre ability to tame and control savage beasts, and Magneto uses him to command a pack of actual, living dinosaurs that somehow survived deep underground. When the remaining Avengers, alongside Daredevil and the Black Widow, finally breach the cavern, they are immediately swarmed by a stampeding Triceratops and a towering Tyrannosaurus Rex. Iron Man and Thor struggle to put down the massive reptiles without getting eaten, while Black Panther uses his agility to dodge the crashing jaws. Magneto watches the chaos from a safe distance, thoroughly enjoying the spectacle. Just when it seems the heroes are going to be overwhelmed by the prehistoric monsters, Daredevil realizes they're attacking the wrong targets. Relying on his enhanced radar sense, Daredevil completely ignores the dinosaurs and charges straight at the Piper. He knocks the flute from the mutant's hands, breaking the musical spell. With the music gone, the dinosaurs stop their attack and wander off into the tunnels. Magneto is furious. He commands the mind-controlled X-Men to attack the Avengers. Cyclops fires optic blasts, and Marvel Girl hurls telekinetic debris, forcing the heroes on the defensive. But Magneto's control over the iron in their blood requires immense concentration. The chaos of the brawl breaks his focus just long enough for Professor X to awaken. Xavier unleashes a massive telepathic strike directly into Magneto's mind, completely overloading his nervous system. Magneto collapses, breaking his hold over everyone. The X-Men and the Scarlet Witch are finally free. Xavier thanks the Avengers for their help, and everyone heads home, exhausted but victorious. Part 5 Shanna She-Devil number 5, 1973. Shanna O'Hara, better known as Shanna the She-Devil, is a fierce protector of the African wilderness and a highly skilled survivalist. Born in Africa but raised in the United States, she returned to the jungle after becoming disillusioned with modern society and the cruelty of poachers. Shanna possesses Olympic-level athletic abilities, incredible agility, and expert tracking skills. She is deeply connected to the animal kingdom and is usually accompanied by her two loyal leopards, Ina and Beery. While she doesn't have mutant powers, her sheer physical prowess, resourcefulness, and ferocity make her a formidable fighter. She operates as a guardian of the natural world, taking down hunters and mercenaries who seek to exploit the land. Shanna's life is defined by her fierce independence and her unwavering dedication to the wild, constantly pushing herself to the absolute limit in unforgiving environments. Nekra Sinclair is a mutant driven by intense, weaponized hatred. Born to human parents, her mutation gave her chalk-white skin, sharp fangs, and a terrifying appearance that caused her to be rejected by everyone, including her own family. This lifelong isolation and abuse fueled a deep-seated rage within her. Nekra possesses a unique mutant ability. She can convert her negative emotions, specifically hate and anger, into immense superhuman strength, speed, and resistance to injury. The angrier she gets, the stronger she becomes, making her incredibly dangerous in a prolonged fight. She often partners with other outcasts, most notably the Mandrill, sharing a common desire to punish a society that abandoned them. Nekra views the world through a lens of violence and retribution. She leads a cult of fierce warrior women, using her terrifying physical power and absolute ruthlessness to crush anyone who stands in her way. Shanna the She-Devil is swinging through the jungle, pushing her body to the limits to clear her head. She recently captured the Mandrill and handed him over to the authorities, but she knows his dangerous partner, Nekra, is still out there. Shanna is picked up by a shield jet and taken to an offshore carrier. There, an agent explains that Nekra is currently leading a violent cult of women and plans to cause mass chaos across the continent. Meanwhile, deep in the jungle, Nekra is whipping her followers into a frenzy. She leads a brutal hate chant around a blazing fire, manipulating their anger to increase her own superhuman strength. Her mutant ability allows her to convert negative emotions into raw, physical power. The angrier she gets, the more invulnerable she becomes. She holds Patrick McShane hostage, tying him to a post and preparing to burn him alive as a sacrifice to her twisted cause. Shanna tracks Nekra's cult back to their camp and attacks just before Patrick is killed. She drops out of the trees, sending her 2 trained leopards to attack Nekra. However, Nekra's hate-fueled strength makes her completely impervious to the animal's claws. She swats the leopards aside and turns her attention to Shanna. The 2 women engage in a brutal, hand-to-hand fight. Shanna strikes with all her might, but her punches barely register against Nekra's rock-hard skin. Realizing she can't win a contest of brute strength, Shanna changes her tactics. She stops fighting back. She lets her anger fade, projecting total calm. This completely throws Nekra off balance. Without Shanna's aggression to feed her own hatred, Nekra's superhuman strength rapidly drains away. Shanna seizes the opening, applying a precise nerve pinch to the base of Nekra's skull. The pressure drops the weakened mutant instantly. Shanna frees Patrick, thankful. They survived the encounter with the terrifying Priestess of Hate. Part 6 X-Men Origins: The Complete Collection, Sabretooth, 2019. Victor Creed, widely known as Sabretooth, is the ultimate predatory mutant and Wolverine's greatest enemy. He possesses razor-sharp claws, enhanced senses, and a healing factor that allows him to recover from almost any injury. Unlike Wolverine, who constantly fights his animalistic instincts, Sabretooth fully embraces his bloodlust. He takes intense, sadistic pleasure in hunting and killing. Victor's childhood was a nightmare. His father chained him in a basement, convinced the boy was a demon. This brutal upbringing fractured his mind and turned him into a remorseless killer. Throughout the decades, he has worked as an assassin, a mercenary, and a key operative for the clandestine Weapon X program. Sabretooth is a towering, terrifying force of nature who views the world entirely as prey. His obsession with tormenting Wolverine spans generations, making him one of the most resilient and vicious threats in mutant history. Silver Fox is a highly skilled mutant and a tragic figure deeply tied to the intertwined pasts of Wolverine and Sabretooth. Living in a remote cabin in the Canadian Rockies during the early 1900s, she shared a peaceful, loving life with Logan before his memory was repeatedly wiped by the Weapon X program. She possesses a suppressed mutant healing factor and age retardation, keeping her youthful for decades. Silver Fox is tough, independent, and completely unafraid of the harsh wilderness. Her idyllic life is brutally shattered when Sabretooth tracks them down and attacks her on Logan's birthday, sparking a blood feud that spans a century. She later resurfaces as an operative for the clandestine Team X alongside Logan and Creed, her memories seemingly altered just like theirs. Silver Fox remains a capable and deadly agent, constantly navigating a web of espionage, betrayal, and lost memories. Victor Creed's life is defined by violence and pain. As a young boy, his mutation begins to manifest in terrifying ways. During an argument over a piece of pie, he bites his brother Luther, accidentally killing him. Horrified, his father chains Victor in the basement, pulling out his teeth in a desperate, twisted attempt to cure him. But Victor's healing factor just grows them back. After years of isolation and abuse, Victor breaks his own hand to slip out of his chains. He murders his father and walks away, fully embracing his predatory nature. Years later, in the early 1900s, Victor tracks down Logan, who is living peacefully in a remote Canadian cabin with a woman named Silver Fox. On Logan's birthday, Victor ambushes Silver Fox, brutally attacking her and leaving her for dead just to torment Logan. This sparks a blood feud that will define both their lives. Decades pass, and Victor is recruited into the CIA's clandestine Team X program. He works alongside Logan and Silver Fox, though their memories have been repeatedly scrambled and wiped by their handlers. They carry out bloody Black Ops missions across the globe. During a botched extraction in West Berlin, Victor casually shoots a civilian hostage just to save time. Logan is disgusted by his complete lack of morality, but Victor just laughs it off. He revels in the killing. Years later, they meet again in a dive bar. Logan demands to know why Victor killed Silver Fox all those years ago. Victor casually explains that they are both killers by nature. He claims he only attacked her to save Logan time, arguing that Logan eventually would have destroyed her life anyway. He insists that bloodlust is in their DNA and that fighting it is completely useless. The two mutants tear into each other, continuing their endless, brutal cycle of hatred. Part 7 X-Men Deadly Genesis No. 3, 2006. Suzanne Chan, known as Sway, is a young mutant with the incredibly rare ability to manipulate time. She can freeze time in a localized radius, stopping people and objects completely dead in their tracks. More uniquely, she can rewind the temporal echoes of a specific location, allowing her to view ghostly replays of past events like a three-dimensional movie. Suzanne's powers activated during a horrific tragedy when her parents were caught in the crossfire of a gang shootout in New York's Chinatown. Her life is a constant struggle to process the trauma of watching her parents die. She uses her retrocognitive abilities to track down the killers, showing a deep sense of justice and determination. Sway eventually catches the attention of Dr. Moira McTaggart, who recruits her into a secret team of X-Men. Though her time as an X-Man is brief and tragically cut short, her unique temporal powers prove crucial to her team's survival. Suzanne Chan's life changes in a fraction of a second. She is a bright 17-year-old girl, touring college campuses with her parents. While walking through New York's Chinatown, a sudden gang shootout erupts around them. In a desperate moment of panic, Suzanne's mutant abilities activate. She accidentally slows down time in a localized radius, freezing the bullets in midair. However, the effect doesn't last long enough. The time stop drops, and her parents are fatally struck by the gunfire. The police arrive and are completely baffled. There are hundreds of bullet holes at the scene, yet Suzanne doesn't have a single scratch on her. The detectives assume she is just in shock, unable to comprehend how she survived. Devastated, Suzanne wanders the city streets, eventually returning to the site of the murder. As she stands there, the second half of her mutant power manifests. Ghostly, phantom images of her parents and the shooters suddenly appear in the alley. Suzanne realizes she can replay the temporal echoes of the past. Using this retrocognitive ability, she follows the ghostly trail of the gang members right to their hideout. She finds them celebrating the hit and immediately calls the police from a payphone. When the cops arrive, the gang members refuse to go down quietly and open fire. This time, Suzanne is ready. She actively freezes time around the criminals, allowing the police to arrest them without a single shot landing. She knows they can't hurt anyone ever again. A kind-eyed detective talks to her afterward, realizing she has abilities far beyond a normal teenager. He introduces her to Dr. Moira McTaggart. Moira explains that she works with kids just like Suzanne and asks if she has ever heard of the X-Men, offering the young girl a chance to use her powers for good. Part 8 Elektra and Wolverine The Redeemer No. 1, 2002. Elektra Nachios is one of the deadliest assassins in the Marvel Universe. Trained extensively in martial arts and the lethal ways of the ninja, she wields her signature twin sai with terrifying precision. Elektra's journey began in tragedy. The murder of her father pushed her away from a normal life and straight into the arms of the Hand, a mystical ninja clan. They honed her grief into a lethal weapon. Although she often operates as a mercenary for hire, Elektra struggles with her own moral compass, occasionally fighting alongside heroes like Daredevil and Wolverine. She is a master of stealth, capable of slipping past the tightest security systems without making a sound. Her physical prowess is matched only by her intense psychological focus. Elektra is a solitary figure, navigating a bloody world of contract kills and espionage while constantly searching for her own twisted version of redemption. Wolverine-born James Howlett, but universally known as Logan, is the ultimate scrapper. His mutant healing factor allows him to survive devastating injuries, regenerate damaged tissue, and heavily slows his aging. His skeleton and retractable bone claws were forcibly bonded with adamantium, a virtually indestructible metal, making his physical attacks incredibly lethal. Logan is a man defined by a fragmented past, having lived through multiple wars and countless Black Ops missions with his memories repeatedly wiped. He fights a constant internal battle against his own berserker rage, striving to find honor in a life filled with violence. Despite his gruff, cigar-chomping exterior, Logan is fiercely loyal and deeply protective of his friends, especially the younger mutants he mentors. He operates by his own strict moral code, willing to cross the lines that other heroes won't to ensure the innocent are kept safe. Elektra arrives for her shift at the Lee building right after midnight. She has spent the entire week posing as Katya, a Russian janitor with a heavy coat and terrible body odor, to ensure the security guards completely ignore her. Once she reaches the 43rd floor, she locks the door to a corner office and sheds her disguise, revealing her black ninja gear. She pulls her twin Psy from her maintenance cart and sets up a controlled explosive charge on the massive glass window. The blast blows the glass outward into the howling Manhattan winter. Without hesitation, Elektra leaps out into the freezing night, using suction cups and ropes to scale the sheer face of the skyscraper. Her target is an executive living in the heavily guarded penthouse near the top floor. She climbs for over 2 hours, battling the freezing winds, before slicing through an alarm system and slipping into the building's ventilation shaft. She quietly drops onto the top of an elevator car and pries the doors open to access the penthouse hallway. Elektra creeps through the dim, marble-floored corridor. She ducks into the shadows as a sleepy teenage girl, Avery Connor, walks past her to use the bathroom. Elektra waits patiently, then slips into the master bedroom. She quickly neutralizes the target, making the hit look exactly like an accidental heart attack, just as her anonymous employer requested. But as she turns to leave, the bathroom door opens. Avery stands in the hallway, staring right at her. Elektra knows she can't leave any witnesses, but she hesitates, unwilling to kill an innocent child. Suddenly, the penthouse guards burst into the room with guns drawn. They open fire. Elektra reacts instantly, grabbing Avery and diving straight through the bedroom window, plunging into the darkness with the girl in her arms. Part 9 Elektra and Wolverine The Redeemer No. 2, 2002. Logan lies bleeding in the snow next to a wrecked limousine, waiting for his mutant healing factor to kick in. He was hired to protect Avery Connor, but the transport was ambushed by a ninja who drove them off the road. The ninja stabbed Logan through both lungs and vanished into the freezing woods with the teenager. Veronica Connor, Avery's mother, watches in quiet shock as the gruesome wounds on Logan's chest knit themselves back together in a matter of seconds. A black car pulls up to the crash site, and a man named Kiefer steps out. Kiefer is the government operative who originally hired Logan for the protection detail. He is absolutely furious when he sees the wrecked limo and realizes the girl is missing. He starts shouting orders into a radio, mobilizing dozens of heavily armed agents across Manhattan to hunt down the kidnapper. Logan confronts Kiefer, angry that he was kept in the dark. Kiefer lied to him. He claimed a standard assassin was after Avery, completely failing to mention that a highly trained ninja was involved. Kiefer mocks Logan's failure, sneering that his enhanced senses are useless if he can't even track a target in the snow. Logan ignores the insults, fully aware that Kiefer's arrogance means he is hiding a much larger agenda. Determined to fix his mistake, Logan pushes past Kiefer and commandeers his black sedan. He tells Veronica to get in the backseat. He refuses to wait around while a teenager is in danger. As they speed away down the icy highway, Logan promises Veronica that he will track down Elektra and get her daughter back, regardless of what Kiefer or his shadow agency has planned for the girl. He pops a cigar in his mouth and follows the faint, lingering scent of the ninja leading back into the city. Part 10 Elektra and Wolverine The Redeemer No. 3, 2002. Elektra and her hostage, Avery, find themselves in a tense standoff in the middle of a snowy Manhattan street. Avery has just taken a point-blank gunshot to the chest, but miraculously, the fatal wound heals itself in mere seconds. The teenager spits out a mouthful of blood and casually asks what they should do next. Logan arrives on the scene, popping his adamantium claws and growling at Elektra. Meanwhile, Kiefer, the corrupt government handler, is caught right in the middle. Elektra holds one of her side directly against Kiefer's throat, using him as a human shield. Kiefer yells at Logan to ignore his safety and just kill Elektra, desperately wanting to secure Avery. But Logan refuses to make a move that would endanger the girl. Elektra quickly takes control of the situation. She orders both men to drop to their knees and put their hands down their pants to ensure they can't reach for any concealed weapons. Logan chuckles at the sheer audacity of the command and complies, but Kiefer hesitates. Elektra fires a warning shot that shatters a car window right next to Kiefer's head, forcing him to drop face down onto the freezing pavement. With her enemies neutralized, Elektra grabs Avery by the arm and disappears into the night. Later, Logan has a quiet moment with Veronica Connor. Veronica reveals the horrifying truth about her daughter. Avery was genetically modified in a lab to possess superhuman speed, strength, and a mutant healing factor specifically designed to mimic Wolverine's. Kiefer's shadow agency views Logan as the prototype and Avery as the perfected replacement. They plan to use the girl as a living weapon. Logan is sickened by the revelation. He knows exactly what men like Kiefer do to people with healing factors, and he swears to tear the agency apart before he lets another innocent soul suffer through the nightmare of the Weapon X program. Part 11, X-Men Deadly Genesis No. 4, 2006. Gabriel Summers, later known as Vulcan, is the long-lost third Summers brother, related to Cyclops and Havoc. He possesses incredibly immense mutant power, capable of manipulating, absorbing, and projecting almost any form of energy, including magic and mutant abilities. His origins are extremely dark. He was ripped from his mother's womb and rapidly aged in an incubator by the Sheer alien empire, raised to be a subjugated slave. Gabriel eventually escaped to Earth, completely traumatized and missing large fragments of his memory. He lived on the streets of New York until Dr. Moira McTaggart found him and took him in. Gabriel is deeply insecure and haunted by terrible nightmares of his time in the incubation tanks. Despite his vast potential, his emotions are incredibly volatile. He desperately wants to belong and be a hero, but the lingering trauma of his past makes him a ticking time bomb of raw, uncontrollable energy. Gabriel Summers is haunted by nightmares every single time he closes his eyes. He dreams of floating in a cold, sterile incubation tank, watched by strange, alien faces peering through the thick glass. He remembers the terrifying mechanical pincers reaching into the tank to extract him, a memory that constantly wakes him up in a cold sweat. Living at Dr. Moira McTaggart's research facility, Gabriel struggles to piece his broken life together. He remembers being a slave in a massive fortress, surrounded by people with strange, feather-like hair. He remembers a kind woman who secretly brought him a book about Roman mythology, a book that eventually inspired him to choose the name Gabriel. Most importantly, he remembers the terrifying day his mutant powers first manifested. In a sudden burst of raw, uncontrollable energy, he accidentally killed the very woman who had tried to help him. Moira attempts to help Gabriel process his trauma by bringing in Professor Charles Xavier. Xavier uses his telepathy to probe Gabriel's mind, trying to unlock his repressed memories so the boy can gain full control over his vast energy manipulation abilities. But the psychic intrusion only makes Gabriel defensive. Later, Gabriel gets the chance to meet his idol, Cyclops. The two of them spar in the danger room, and Gabriel experiences the biggest rush of his life. During the training session, Gabriel exhibits an incredible level of power, effortlessly absorbing and bending Cyclops' optic blasts away with a simple wave of his hand. Cyclops is completely shocked by the display. That night, Gabriel overhears Moira and Xavier whispering about his potential. Xavier admits that Gabriel's energy manipulation skills are off the charts, but he senses something deeply broken in the boy's mind. Gabriel realizes he must keep the dark truth of his deadly escape a secret if he ever wants to be a real X-Man. Part 12, Incredible Hulk No. 172, 1974. Cain Marko, the unstoppable juggernaut, is a walking force of pure destruction. Interestingly, he is not a mutant. His immense power comes from a mystical artifact known as the Crimson Gem of Sidorak, which he discovered in a hidden temple while serving in the military. Once he starts moving, absolutely no physical force on Earth can stop him. He possesses incalculable physical strength, infinite stamina, and a mystical force field that makes him virtually invulnerable to all damage. Kane is the fiercely resentful stepbrother of Charles Xavier. He spent his entire life bullying Charles, constantly jealous of his stepbrother's intellect and mutant gifts. As the Juggernaut, his primary motivation is usually petty revenge against Xavier and the X-Men. He wears a massive, domed helmet that specifically protects him from Xavier's telepathic attacks. Brash, arrogant, and incredibly violent, the Juggernaut loves nothing more than proving he is the strongest being in the room. The Juggernaut has mysteriously returned to Earth after being banished to an alternate dimension, and he immediately runs into the Incredible Hulk. Believing the Green Giant is just another obstacle, the Juggernaut attacks. The Hulk is confused but always ready for a fight, and the two massive powerhouses engage in a brutal, earth-shattering brawl through the desert. The Juggernaut quickly realizes that the Hulk's strength is practically limitless, but his own mystical force field absorbs the worst of the impact. The fight drags on, leveling the surrounding landscape. Meanwhile, Colonel Armbruster and the military arrive at Hulkbuster base, furiously trying to secure the perimeter. Armbruster's men try to intervene in the Titan-sized fistfight, but their conventional weapons are completely useless. The Juggernaut shrugs off artillery fire as if it were a mild breeze. He tries to crush the Hulk's windpipe, boasting that the Crimson Gem of Sidorak gives him infinite power. But the Hulk just gets angrier, and his strength increases exponentially. The Hulk grabs the Juggernaut, spins him around by his boots, and hurls him directly into the side of a massive mountain. The sheer kinetic impact buries the Juggernaut under thousands of tons of solid rock. With his opponent temporarily dealt with, the Hulk wanders away, eventually stumbling upon a shocking scene inside a hidden military facility. He finds the X-Men, Cyclops, Marvel Girl, Iceman, Angel, Havoc, and Polaris, all lying unconscious, wired into a massive, terrifying machine that is slowly siphoning off their brain energy. The Hulk doesn't understand the complex technology, but he knows scientists in cages usually mean trouble. Before he can smash the equipment and free the mutants, the military forces close in with heavy gas canisters, forcing the Hulk to flee and leaving the captured X-Men to their grim fate. Part 13, Captain America No. 172, 1974. Sean Cassidy, the mutant known as Banshee, possesses a sonic scream capable of devastating effects. A former Interpol inspector and freelance detective from Ireland, Sean can shatter solid rock, fly by riding the sound waves of his own voice, and even scramble a person's equilibrium with localized acoustic blasts. His mutation makes his vocal cords incredibly resilient, and he constantly smokes a pipe without damaging his throat. Banshee is older than the founding X-Men and brings a seasoned, tactical mindset to his encounters. Initially forced into a life of crime by a villain named the Mutant Master, who held him hostage with an explosive headband, Sean eventually breaks free with the X-Men's help. He is an honorable, good-hearted man who prefers to avoid conflict when possible, but he won't hesitate to unleash his destructive sonic wail to protect his friends and clear his name. Captain America and the Falcon are currently fugitives from the law, desperately trying to clear Steve Rogers' name after he was framed for murder by a secretive organization. Their investigation leads them to Nashville, Tennessee, where they hope to track down a lead on the villains who ruined their lives. They hitchhike their way into the city, keeping a low profile to avoid the local police. While staking out a country music museum, they are suddenly attacked by a shrieking figure plummeting from the sky. It's the mutant known as Banshee. Banshee unleashes a devastating sonic scream that shatters the pavement and brings Captain America to his knees. The Irish mutant is completely paranoid and aggressive, assuming Cap and Falcon are government agents sent to capture him. The fight spills into the nearby woods, where Falcon uses his aerial agility to dodge Banshee's acoustic blasts. Banshee tries to fly away, but Cyclops suddenly appears from the tree line and blasts him out of the sky with a precision optic beam. Cyclops restrains Banshee and apologizes for the chaos. He explains to Cap and Falcon that a massive, shadowy conspiracy has declared open season on the mutant population. Someone is systematically hunting down mutants across the country, and several of the X-Men have already vanished without a trace. Captain America realizes that the very same people who framed him must be the ones kidnapping the mutants. Cyclops introduces Cap to Professor Xavier, who confirms their suspicions. Xavier explains that an incredibly powerful and insidious group known as the Secret Empire is pulling the strings from the shadows. The Empire plans to use the captured mutants for a massive, sinister project. Cap, Falcon and the remaining X-Men realize they share a common enemy, and they agree to join forces to take the Secret Empire down. Part 14, Captain America No. 173, 1974. Captain America and the Falcon need a way to infiltrate the Secret Empire, the shadowy organization that framed Steve Rogers and is actively kidnapping mutants. With the help of the X-Men, they devise a risky undercover plan. Cap and Falcon adopt the personas of sleazy mercenaries and wander into a known Empire hangout, hoping to get recruited. A mysterious woman approaches them and offers a massive cash payout if they can break into the heavily guarded Brand Corporation and steal a highly experimental device called the Electron Gyro. Knowing it's a test of their loyalty, Cap and Falcon break into the Brand facility. They trigger the alarms on purpose, dodging lasers and fighting past armored security guards to secure the device. They successfully deliver the Gyro to their contact and are immediately welcomed into the ranks of the Secret Empire. They are blindfolded and transported to a massive, underground lair hidden deep beneath the southwestern desert. The base is an absolute marvel of illicit engineering. Number 1, the enigmatic leader of the Empire, greets them in a cavernous chamber. He boasts about his grand scheme to overthrow the United States government. Cap and Falcon explore the facility, trying to gather intel, but they quickly realize they're completely trapped. Meanwhile, outside the base, Cyclops, Marvel Girl, and Professor X launch a diversionary attack. Cyclops fires massive optic blasts at the exterior guards, while Marvel Girl uses her telekinesis to shield them from incoming fire. But the Empire's forces are heavily armed and overwhelming. Back inside the base, the Empire realizes they've been infiltrated. Before Cap and Falcon can find the missing mutants, they are ambushed by a squad of guards armed with stun rifles. Number 1 gloats over their unconscious bodies, thrilled that his master plan to conquer America is finally coming to fruition. Part 15, Captain America No. 174, 1974. Deep inside the Secret Empire's underground lair, Captain America and the Falcon awaken in a holding cell. They manage to short-circuit the electronic lock and break out, determined to find the missing X-Men before Number 1 can execute his master plan. As they sneak through the facility, they dodge heavily armed patrols and deadly laser grid traps set up in the ventilation shafts. Meanwhile, Cyclops, Marvel Girl, and Professor X successfully breach the exterior defenses and quietly navigate the base's air ducts. Using Xavier's telepathy, the X-Men sync up with Cap and Falcon, guiding them through the labyrinth of corridors. They finally reach the central laboratory, and the sight is absolutely horrifying. The missing mutants, Iceman, Angel, Havoc, Polaris, Beast and several members of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, are all strapped into a massive, terrifying machine. The device is actively siphoning their raw mental and physical energy. The Secret Empire has been using the mutants as living batteries to power an atomic annihilator, a weapon capable of leveling entire cities in seconds. Before the heroes can destroy the machine and free the captives, the Empire's elite guards swarm the room. A massive fight breaks out. Cap uses his shield to smash the control consoles, while Falcon takes to the air, dive-bombing the heavily armored soldiers. Marvel Girl throws telekinetic shields to protect the groggy, newly freed mutants as they stumble out of the energy-draining pods. But the victory is cut brutally short. Number 1 activates the atomic annihilator from a secure viewing room, flooding the entire laboratory with a lethal wave of pure radiation. The blinding light washes over the room, and Captain America, the Falcon and the entire roster of X-Men instantly collapse to the floor, leaving the Secret Empire seemingly victorious. Part 16, Captain America No. 175, 1974. The Secret Empire believes they have completely eradicated Captain America, the Falcon and the X-Men with the atomic annihilator. Number 1 confidently steps out of the underground lair and addresses the nation on a live television broadcast. He reveals a massive, heavily armed flying saucer hovering directly over the White House lawn. Powered by the stolen Electron Gyro and the siphoned mental energy of the mutants, The saucer threatens to destroy every major American city unless the government immediately surrenders full control to the Empire. However, the heroes are far from dead. Marvel Girl managed to throw up a desperate, last-second telekinetic shield that protected everyone in the laboratory from the radioactive blast. Cap, Falcon and the fully recovered X-Men smash their way out of the underground base and hijack one of the Empire's transport ships, racing to Washington, D.C. to stop the invasion. The saucer drops its ramp, and Moonstone, a corrupt supervillain working for the Empire, steps out to enforce the surrender. Suddenly, Captain America leaps onto the lawn, shield flying. A massive brawl erupts right on the steps of the White House. Cyclops and Marvel Girl coordinate attacks to tear apart the Empire's ground troops, while Cap focuses entirely on Moonstone, dodging his laser blasts and delivering a crushing haymaker that knocks the villain out cold. Seeing his forces fall apart, Number 1 panics and retreats into the White House, attempting to flee through the Oval Office. Captain America pursues him relentlessly, cornering the leader in a private room. Unwilling to face justice and exposure, Number 1 removes his hood, revealing his true, shocking identity to Cap. Before Rogers can apprehend him, Number 1 pulls a hidden pistol and takes his own life. The secret empire is completely dismantled, and the X-Men are finally safe, but Cap is left utterly disillusioned by the deep-rooted corruption he just witnessed. Part 17 X-Men Unlimited Number 10, 2005. Hank McCoy, the Beast returns to his quiet hometown in Illinois for the first time since his mutation drastically altered his appearance. Now covered in blue fur with sharp fangs and claws, Hank is deeply self-conscious. He sneaks into his parents' house under the cover of darkness, terrified of how the local townsfolk will react to his monstrous new form. His parents are simply relieved to have him home alive, but Hank insists on hiding near the windows, feeling like a ghost haunting his own past. A strange mystery grips the town. All the local animals, pets and livestock alike, are turning up dead in the night, and the residents are extremely spooked. Hank's childhood friend, Jennifer, discovers him hiding in a tree outside her house. She doesn't scream or run, instead, she treats him with the same kindness she always did. Jennifer explains that she came back to town to sell her mother's house and tells Hank about the dead animals. Unable to resist a scientific puzzle, Hank decides to investigate. He and Jennifer venture into the woods near the old cemetery, following a trail of strange, radioactive footprints. They discover the horrifying truth. The local power plant, where both of their fathers used to work, had been secretly dumping radioactive waste. The radiation seeped into the graveyard, reanimating the corpses of former power plant employees. These radioactive zombies have been wandering down the hill at night, killing the animals and poisoning the farmland. Hank realizes the entire town is in massive danger from the contamination. Despite his fear of being seen as a monster, Hank knows he has to act. He steps out of the shadows, ready to use his mutant strength and genius intellect to stop the radioactive threat and save the town that once alienated him. Part 18 Marvel Team-Up Number 23, 1974. Terry Sorensen, known as Equinox, is a tragic figure struggling with an incredibly unstable mutation. The son of two brilliant scientists, Terry was exposed to highly experimental equipment in their laboratory. The accident caused a bizarre physiological reaction, putting his body in a constant state of thermodynamic flux. Terry rapidly shifts between generating absolute zero ice and producing blazing, superheated flames, often simultaneously. His mutation makes him incredibly powerful but heavily degrades his mental state, driving him to violent outbursts. He acts out of a desperate need to find a cure for his fluctuating condition, resorting to theft to acquire the necessary equipment his parents need to treat him. Equinox is a dangerous wildcard in battle because he can hurl fireballs from one hand while generating ice slides with the other. His sheer unpredictability forces heroes to constantly adapt their tactics, making him a formidable opponent for both the X-Men and the Avengers. The Human Torch is flying over Manhattan, looking for a distraction, when he spots a sudden explosion at a local jewelry store. He swoops down and is immediately hit by a barrage of ice blasts. Assuming it's the mutant Iceman, the Torch retaliates, trapping Bobby Drake in a ring of fire. Iceman is completely furious, insisting he didn't rob the store and was just passing by. They trade heated insults and superpowered blows until they realize they are both completely innocent and fighting the wrong guy. The real culprit is a heavily armored thief stealing a highly valuable atomic clock. Torch and Iceman decide to team up and track the burglar back to the store. They ambush the thief in an alley, only to discover they are dealing with a completely new threat: Equinox, the thermodynamic man. Equinox fires blazing heat from one hand and Sub-Zero ice from the other, possessing the combined powers of both heroes. The fight is chaotic. Torch tries to melt Equinox's ice shields, while Iceman attempts to freeze his fire blasts. But Equinox is incredibly powerful and mentally unstable, screaming that he needs the atomic equipment to cure his fluctuating condition. He overwhelms the young heroes, blasting them back with a massive thermal shockwave. Before Equinox can finish them off, Cyclops and Marvel Girl arrive in a speeding car. Cyclops fires a precise optic blast to knock Equinox off balance, while Marvel Girl uses her telekinesis to gently levitate Torch and Iceman to safety. Equinox realizes he is outnumbered and creates a massive steam cloud to cover his escape. He dives into the sewer system, vanishing into the darkness with the stolen tech. The X-Men explain they are on a top-secret mission for Professor Xavier and need Iceman to return immediately, leaving the Torch to wonder what massive threat the mutant team is preparing to face. Part 19, Defenders number 15, 1974. Professor Xavier reaches out to Doctor Strange in a moment of utter desperation. The X-Men have been captured yet again by Magneto, and Xavier's telepathic abilities are being blocked by a massive, artificial magnetic field. Dr. Strange quickly assembles the Defenders, Valkyrie Nighthawk. In The Incredible Hulk, to launch a rescue mission, the Hulk is reluctant to help Magic Man, but he agrees to smash things if it gets him some peace and quiet. Xavier telepathically guides the Defenders to a massive, subterranean cavern hidden deep within the Carlsbad Caverns in New Mexico. When they arrive, they are greeted by a terrifying sight. Magneto has completely rebuilt the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, recruiting Mastermind, Eunice the Untouchable, and the Blob. The villains are guarding a massive, glass incubator pulsating with strange cosmic energy. A chaotic battle erupts in the underground chamber. The Hulk immediately charges at the Blob, and the two heavyweights collide in a shockwave of pure physical force. The Blob's immovable mass absorbs the Hulk's punches, frustrating the Green Giant. Valkyrie swings her enchanted sword at Eunice, only to have the blade bounce harmlessly off his impenetrable force field. Nighthawk struggles to fight Mastermind, completely disoriented by the villain's hyper-realistic illusions of towering monsters and bottomless pits. As the Defenders fight for their lives, Magneto gloats to Doctor Strange. He explains that he discovered this ancient, alien laboratory deep underground and used its technology to create the ultimate weapon. He points to the glowing glass chamber, revealing that he has grown a completely new, artificially engineered mutant designed to wipe out baseline humanity. Realizing the fight is just a distraction, Magneto throws a massive switch. The incubator shutters and cracks open. A blinding light fills the cavern, and a towering, godlike being steps out of the pod. Magneto has successfully birthed Alpha, the ultimate mutant, and the Defenders realize they're completely outmatched. Part 20, Defenders number 16, 1974. Alpha the Ultimate Mutant is an artificial being of staggering cosmic power. Created by Magneto using abandoned, ancient alien technology discovered deep within the Earth, Alpha was designed to be the absolute pinnacle of mutant evolution. He possesses virtually limitless telekinetic and reality-altering abilities. He can teleport across the globe, levitate entire skyscrapers, and manipulate matter at a subatomic level. However, Alpha's most defining trait is his incredibly rapid evolution. Within hours of his creation, his physical form and mental capacity advanced thousands of years beyond normal human intelligence. He quickly transcends Magneto's control, developing a profound understanding of morality in the universe. Alpha is not inherently evil. He operates on a level of cosmic judgment, weighing the actions of those around him to determine right and wrong. His existence proves that true evolution isn't just about physical power, but the acquisition of empathy and wisdom, making him a fleeting but unforgettable presence in the Marvel Universe. Alpha the Ultimate Mutant steps out of his incubator, and his power is absolutely terrifying. With a simple wave of his hand, he effortlessly neutralizes the defenders, turning their muscles to putty and halting the Hulk in his tracks. Magneto is thrilled, commanding Alpha to teleport the Brotherhood directly to the United Nations building in New York to demand the total surrender of humanity. When they arrive, Magneto orders Alpha to rip the entire UN building from its foundations and levitate it a half-mile into the sky. The delegates inside are terrified. However, Alpha's brain is rapidly evolving by the second. He starts questioning Magneto's orders, wondering why he should destroy innocent people. Doctor Strange manages to break the defenders out of the underground cavern, and they teleport to New York, storming the floating UN building. A massive brawl breaks out in the General Assembly. The Hulk smashes through the Brotherhood's defenses, while Valkyrie and Nighthawk take down Mastermind. Magneto screams at Alpha to destroy the heroes, but Alpha refuses. His intellect has evolved far beyond Magneto's petty hatred. Alpha uses his cosmic awareness to judge both sides. He realizes that the defenders are fighting to protect life, while Magneto is driven purely by spite and vengeance. Deciding that Magneto and the Brotherhood are a dangerous nuisance, Alpha unleashes a blinding flash of energy. He reverses the villain's biological age, turning Magneto and the Brotherhood into helpless, crying infants. With the threat neutralized, Alpha gently lowers the UN building back to the ground and wipes the memory of the event from the terrified delegates. Realizing that his rapid evolution has pushed him far beyond the concerns of Earth, Alpha bids farewell to the stunned heroes. He levitates into the sky and flies off into the deep cosmos, leaving the Defenders and Professor X to gather the infant mutants and head home in total silence. Conclusion. Thanks for watching this deep dive into the early days of these incredible mutants. It's fascinating to see how characters like Wolverine, Sabretooth and Magneto evolved through these classic stories. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next chapter in our chronological X-Men journey.